Okay, so my first experience of yoga started when I was a professional ballet dancer many years ago, and the studio that I danced at, they offered yoga classes, and I remember having an initial, connection with it, and I loved the spirituality of it and the meditation, the energetics, as well as the movement. I wasn't starved of movement, obviously being a ballet dancer, but I loved the holistic approach that it had. However, I just kept dancing, but then I eventually got injured to the point where I needed to actually stop dancing and give up my career, which was at the time very sad and very hard for me. But I remembered my experience with yoga, and then I just did yoga classes and then just continued on and on and on to the point where I felt really drawn to teach it. And I was teaching, I did an apprenticeship as an Iyengar yoga teacher, and I did that for about 4 years. And in that time, I learnt so much, obviously, about the body, the technique and the form, and all the background behind the yoga. However, I did feel at the same time, despite how amazing my training was, I felt like I was waiting for that bit where we stepped into the spiritual dimension of the practice, where you look at the more subtlety of energy and meditation and consciousness and all those sorts of things. So my needs weren't being met, so what I needed to do was actually seek it outside of the yoga, even though I understood it was part of the yoga, it just wasn't taught to me. So I found pranic healing, which is an energy-based practice, and I really just absolutely adored pranic healing, and it just gave me what I was looking for. In terms of understanding chakras and energy and consciousness, and what you put out there, and how everything basically is energy, and how do you work with energy so that you can live in harmony with yourself and with life. So I went down the path of Adhatic yoga, which is an extension of pranic healing, which was very meditation based and very much about transformation and self-realization. And so what ended up just naturally occurring in my practice and in my teaching was that I started to bring my rich background of movement, both through dance and Iyengar yoga, with my understanding of energy and healing and alignment and consciousness. And so, as I said, it was an organic process of it just sort of merging together. And then, years down the track, I came across a tape with Yogi Amrit Desai being interviewed by Deepak Chopra. I didn't know who Yogi Amrit Desai was, but I knew who Deepak Chopra was. And the title of this tape really took my attention. It said, "Instilling the spiritual dimension into the practice of Hatha Yoga." And it talked about meditation in motion. So I bought the tape and I brought it home and I listened to it. Back then it was a tape, not an MP3. And I had an instant energetic connection with Yogi Amrit Desai, and to the point where it was like I stopped and went, who is he? Where is he? He's my teacher. Just what he was saying and what I was seeking, and the energy around his words and his presence was really quite profound. I could feel it through a tape, his presence, his energetic presence. So that led me to eventually go to America and train with him. And in that time, he also asked me to migrate to America and to teach alongside him and be part of his team of senior teachers, which was a total honour. But what I ended up doing, I was just following the energy of it, is Australia needs this type of practice of yoga. There's a lot of practice that's focusing on the physical form, and even though the philosophy is talked about and it might be, gently kind of introduced into the class, I've never experienced it in the depth of how Amrit Yoga teaches it, and how it embodies the spirituality and the philosophy of the yoga. It's actually embodied in the practice, and it's a deeply energetic practice. So hence my world of the physical form and accuracy with the formless and energetic and heart and soul just came together, and I was like, bingo! I found it. So since my training about 11 years ago in Amrit Yoga, I pioneered it in Australia, and I had students who had trained with me in Iyengar who then tried Amrit Yoga, and once they tried it, they just never went back. Because it's so transformative as a practice, and it really goes into witnessing the mind and all the beliefs and the limitations that stop you from being the presence that you are. So the practice is really all about removing those layers so that you can just rest in your being and operate and function from that place, not just on the mat, but in life. And so that's a journey to actually arrive at that place of resting where you're not imposed by what the mind thinks from whatever's happened to you in the past. So in bringing the Amrit to Australia, it was followed through with Amrit Method Yoga Nidra. And I've since also begun teaching Amrit Yoga Teacher Training, which is the first time that they've ever allowed, the Amrit Teacher Training to be taught outside of America. So I'm once again very honoured that they blessed me with that. And yeah, it's really taken off in particularly Melbourne, but I have trained teachers and lots of students, thousands of students over the years. And it's really made a big difference to people's lives because of that inner dimension of, experiencing what energy is and how when you connect to your energy field, you start to drop into a place of feeling and being rather than thinking and doing, which is where all the chaos happens, in the thinking and the doing. But ultimately the practice is to marry your doing with your non-doing, both on the mat and off the mat. So there's a lot of depth in the practice, and it serves not just self-mastery, but it can take you to the level of self-realization, which is, I suppose, the ultimate path and experience of yoga.